Hello everyone! Pag-uusapan natin ngayon yung mga common confounding variables na most likely mangyayari kapag gumagamit ka ng within subjects design. And also, pag-uusapan na rin natin kung syempre paano iwasan yan because as you know, confounding variables, ayaw natin yan sa experiment. Pag marami kang confounding variables in your experiment, bumababa yung internal validity, which means hindi tayo sure kung yung conclusion natin later on is the truth about the mind. And we don't like that. Kaya ka nga nag-experiment to find the truth, no? So, paano natin maiiwasan yung mga confounding variables na yan na very common sa within subjects design? Very quick review, ang within subjects design, meron ka lang isang grupo ng participants who will undergo all the IV levels. So, isang grupo lang. Yung 30 na tao dito, lahat sila yung dadaan ng level 1, measure the DV, sila dadaan ng level 2, measure DV, dadaan sila ng level 3, then measure the DV. Now, logic will tell you, dyan pa lang, amoy mo na maraming posibleng problema ang pwedeng mangyari if you are only using one group who will undergo all the conditions or all the manipulations. Pag paulit-ulit mo silang ginagamit, most likely, mangyayari yung mga sumusunod. Baka magkaroon ng practice effects, fatigue effects, pati na rin yung contamination or carry-over effects. So yan yung pag-uusapan natin in this lecture, ano ba yung mga yan at paano masusolusyonan. Let's start with practice effects. Again, very common to sa within subjects design. Nalimutan ko pala sabihin, no? Kung ayaw nyong maranasan yung numbers 1 to 3, ang pwede nyong gawin, mag-between subjects design na lang kayo. Kasi sa between subjects design, wherein you are using different groups in different levels, magkakaiba yung grupo sa iba't ibang mga levels, hindi mo problema yung numbers 1 to 3. So kung ayaw mo ng practice effect, fatigue effect, contamination effect, mag-between subjects design ka. Pero panindigan muna natin to, no? Paano kung talagang gusto mo within subjects design? Most likely, mangyayari yan, numbers 1 to 3, paano masusolusyonan? Balik tayo sa practice effect. Uncertainty that observed improvement in your DV is due to IV or participants getting better via repetition. Meron ka na namang hindi sigurado dito. Meron kang nakitang effect sa dependent variable mo, pero hindi mo alam kung yung effect na yon galing ba siya sa manipulation mo, which is your IV, or baka naman, bekenemen, nanggaling sa practice effect. So, hindi ka ngayon makapag-conclude na sabihin mo na yung effect na nakita mo sa DV mo galing sa IV mo. Kasi nga, baka galing sa practice effect. So, let me demonstrate ano ba yung practice effect. Manood kayo ng isang brain game episode na ang pangalan is Positive Thinking. You can see this in YouTube. Punta lang kayo sa YouTube, tapos i-type nyo Positive Thinking Experiment. Meron nung experiment na gumamit sila ng basketball court. Okay? Para malaman nila kung meron bang effect yung positive thinking sa performance ng tao sa pag-shoot ng free throw. Maliwanag. So, hindi ko na ipapakita yung video dito for copyright purposes. You can just go to YouTube and watch this experiment. So, basically, ito yung tinatanong nila. Kapag ang tao tinuruan mong mag-positive thinking, ine-encourage niya yung sarili niya, ine-encourage siya ng ibang tao na kaya niya yan, nakaka-improve ba yon ng performance sa pag-shoot ng free throw? So, if you watch the experiment, ganito yung naging setup niyan. They started with getting the baseline performance of people shooting free throws, or also known as, in experimental language, pre-treatment condition. Okay? So, may mga grupo ng mga tao, pinag-free throw sila, kinuha nila yung mga hindi magagaling. Like for example, this lady right here, kung papanoorin niyo yung video, she got 0 out of 10. So lahat ng bano, sorry for the term, no, lahat ng hindi magaling, kinuha nila para sila yung magiging nasa pre-treatment. So they got people na hindi magagaling dito. And then they applied positive thinking. Remember, this is the intervention. This is the IV. Panoorin nyo na lang yung brain games kung paano manipulate yung positive thinking. Paano sila tinuruan. Para mag-gets nyo rin kung bakit to naka-blindfold. May reason yan. Because of this procedure, tumaas yung kanilang believe sa sarili, yung kanilang confidence, mas naging positive sila sa mga sarili nila. And then they wanted to find out kung etong positive thinking ba na to magta-translate sa better performance in shooting 10 free throws. Nagigets nyo? So kanina, nag-shoot sila ng 10 free throws. Kunin natin yung mga hindi magagaling. Turuan natin sila ng positive thinking. Pag shootin mo ulit ng 10 free throws, will their performance improve? Siyempre, ang hypothesis dito is yes. Kapag natuto ka ng positive thinking sa sarili mo, gaganda yung performance mo, including shooting free throws. Now, to make the long story short, for this lady right here, yung performance niya really changed. Nag-improve nga. From 0 to 5. So, nung una siyang kinuhanan ng baseline score, nung nandito siya, 0 siya. Kaya nga siya sinama sa experiment eh. Isa siya sa mga hindi magagaling. Tapos, nung binigyan siya ng manipulation, pinataas yung positive thinking niya, naging 5 na yung performance niya. So, that was a quite of an improvement. From 0 to 5, siguro i-times 30 mo yan, mag-run ka ng t-test for sure, the difference between this and this will be significant. And fast forward in that video, kung papanoorin nyo, hindi lang siya yung naka-experience ng ganyan. Halos lahat ng ibang participants na hindi magaling sa free throw, the moment na turuan mo silang mag-positive thinking, their performance improves. So, ang easy conclusion mo dito would be to say na talaga nga, totoo nga, na kapag nagpa-positive thinking ka, gumaganda ang performance mo sa pag-free throw. But given the fact that this is a within subjects experiment, paano siya naging within? Kasi kung sino yung tao dito sa unang level, siya rin yung tao dito sa pangalawang level. So within subjects design yan. Posible na merong practice effect. Hindi na ngayon tayo sure kung yung movement from 0 to 5 dito, dahil ba yan sa positive thinking or baka naman dahil sa practice effect. Ano ulit ibig sabihin ng practice effect? Yan yon. Gumagaling yung participants mo in different levels sa kakaulit nila ng task na ginagawa. Kasi nga, isang grupo lang ng participants yung ginagamit mo. So, kung anumang task yung binibigay mo sa kanila, they keep on repeating that in the experiment. So, there's a chance that they keep on improving in doing that something. In this case, shooting free throws. So, may nakita nga tayong effect sa dependent variable. Aba, gumaling mag-free throw shooting after nung positive thinking. Pero hindi na ngayon tayo sure kung eto ba, dahil ba yan sa positive thinking or baka naman kasi na-practice sila sa kakashoot ng free throw. Kung babalikan mo yung framework natin kanina, nag-shoot siya ng 10 free throws dito. Tapos nag-shoot na naman siya ng 10 free throws doon. Baka naman yung kakashoot niya ng free throws dito, gumaling na siya ng gumaling, nakakakuha na siya ng feedback, nag-a-adjust na siya ng form niya. Kaya pagdating dito, nag-improve yung performance niya. It's not because of this. It's because of the adjustments that she did. Kasi nga, siya yung nag-shoot ng free throw. Na-practice na siya ng na-practice until she got better. So, hindi na natin sure kung yung effect ba dito galing sa positive thinking or sa pagpapractice niya. Yun ang practice effect. Another example, ito hypothetical. Imagine we are developing an energy drink that we claim pampaganda ng memory. Ang pangalan ng drink, Pink Bull Energy Drink. So this is the experiment proper. Meron tayong 30 na tao. We are running the experiment within subjects design. So lahat ng condition dito, sila ang mag-undergo. For the control condition, kunin natin yung baseline nila. We give them a memory test. May listahan ng words, i-memorize nila yung listahan ng words. And then isusulat nila sa isang blankong papel lahat ng words na pinamemorize mo dito. Hindi sila hihinto until na-memorize nila lahat ng words. So, gaano nila kabilis na perfect yung task, yun yung magiging dependent variable mo. The same thing with treatment condition. Ang pagkakaiba sa treatment condition, iinumin na nila yung Pink Bull. Ito kasi wala pa silang iniinom, control nga eh. Baseline pa lang nila yan. Ito ang memory performance nila kapag walang Pink Bull. So, pinainom mo ng Pink Bull and then binigyan mo ulit ng memory test. Same procedure. May listahan ng words, i-memorize nyo yan, and then bibigyan kita ng blankong papel, isulat mo lahat ng words na na-memorize mo hanggang sa ma-perfect mo yan, let's get the time. That would be the dependent variable. Now, fast forward, ito yung hypothetical results. Kapag hindi uminom ng pink ball, it took them 3 minutes to perfect the task. Pero pag pinainom mo ng pink ball, 45 seconds lang, na-memorize ka agad nila lahat ng words. Obviously, kung iti-test mo yan, malaki ang difference between 45 seconds and 3 minutes. Ang easy conclusion mo dyan is, effective talaga yung pink ball sa pagpapabilis ng pag-memorize. Pero you can always question the result kasi nga within subjects design yan. Maybe because hindi naman talaga effective yung pink ball. Baka naman meron na namang practice effect dito kasi nga within subjects design yung ginamit mo. Maybe it was not the pink ball that made their memory better, rather, they were already familiar with the task. Kaya siguro sila gumaling. So as you can see here in the figure, hindi na naman tayo sigurado. May nakita nga tayong effect sa dependent variable. Pero hindi natin sigurado kung ito ba galing sa pink ball or nanggaling yan sa kaka-practice nila ng pag-memorize. Baka nahasa na sila, baka na-warm up na sila doon sa previous condition, kaya mas magaling na sila sa second condition. Got that? Yan ang practice effect. So given those illustrations of practice effect, ano yung mga posibleng solutions dyan? Siyempre una, ang pinaka-obvious dyan, bigyan mo ng interval between two conditions. Antayin mo muna yung epekto ng practice na mawala, mag-subside. So bago mo simulan yung second condition, dapat yung natutunan nila o yung familiarity nila sa previous condition more or less nawala na. Pero ang problema sa approach na yan is meron kasing mga effect sa control condition na na merong mga effect na kapag na-experience nila, hindi na siya maa-undo. It stays with you for a lifetime. Like for example, ito, balikan natin yung sa brain games. Di ba nag-free throw siya nung unang condition? Control condition, 10 free throws yon. The thing is, hindi mo na pwedeng asahan na bago siya pumasok sa second condition, wala na yung memory niya of the first condition. For sure, nandun na yun. Kasi nag-shoot na siya ng 10 free throws eh. Kung ano mang adjustments yung naalala niya in trying to shoot the basketball, in the control condition, it stays with her. So, hindi ka na totally sure na pagpasok niya ng second condition o ng treatment condition, zero na yung knowledge niya na nadala niya from the first condition. Kasi nga, it stays with you eh. Learning a skill stays with you, just like riding a bike. Once you learn how to ride a bike, it stays with you for a lifetime. Same thing here. Given the nature of the task, mag-shoot ka ng free throw, you are trying to learn for yourself how to make the ball go into the basket. Hindi mo maa-undo yan. Hindi mawawala yung effect niyan bago ko pumasok sa second condition. Kaya ako, sa sarili ko lang opinion, yung ganyang klaseng experiment, it's better kung between subjects design na lang yung ginamit. So may isang grupo, merong reinforcement, may positive thinking na tinuro, yung isang grupo, wala. Better yon. Yun lang ang challenge doon. If you're gonna do this between subjects design, make sure na yung ability nila to shoot free throws between the first group and the second group is equal. Diba? Para hindi ka magkaroon ng unequal group characteristics. Another solution here sa practice effects is you vary the task given in the conditions. Etong solution number 2, hindi to mag-a-apply sa hindi to mag-a-apply dito, but it will be applied sa pink ball and memory study. Going back to the sequence of the experiment. Sa control condition, hindi mo na uminom ng pink ball, binigyan mo ng memory test, kinuha mo yung dependent variable. Then, pinainom mo ng pink ball, tapos, binigyan mo ng memory test, then kinuha mo yung dependent variable. Ang tanong, dapat ba yung test na binigay mo dito, pati dito, pareho? Ang sagot, hindi dapat. Kasi kung yung test na binigay mo dito, eksaktong-eksakto, ganun din yung items dito, practice effect yan. Huwag ka nang magulat kung mas mataas yung score nila dito. It's not about the pink ball, it's about them remembering the items in this condition. So, ang solution dyan, dapat yung test na ibibigay mo sa treatment condition, iba na. Kaya naging purple yung memory test. Iba na dapat. Pero siguraduhin mo na kahit iba yan, dapat yung test na yan, what's the word? Equivalent. Kahalintulad. Parang clone lang ng first test. Different tests but same in nature, equal in difficulty. Kasi the moment na mas mahirap or mas madali na naman itong test na to kumpara sa previous test, confounding variable na naman yan. So hanap ka ng equivalent test nito. Yun yung ibibigay mo dito sa treatment condition para ma-cancel out mo yung familiarity nila o yung practice nila na nangyari sa kanila in this condition. Nagets nyo? Yun ang practice effect. Ngayon, kung ayaw nyo yung mga ganyang complications, ayaw nyo ng mga ganyang mga solutions, again, ano solution dyan? Mag-between subjects design ka na lang. Got that? Okay, let's move on to fatigue effect. Fatigue, ibig sabihin, pagod. Obviously, dahil isang grupo lang yung ginagamit mo all across different conditions, baka mapagod yung mga yan. So, uncertainty of effect in DV is due to the IV or participants being tired. It's not because of your independent variable. So, ingat din kayo dyan pag gumagamit ng within subjects design. Example, ito yung tanong ko. Meron akong tinetest na dalawang teaching strategies, A and B. Gusto kong malaman alin doon yung mas effective in increasing student grades. Anong mas magandang approach? So, ito yung experiment proper natin using within subjects design. So, isang grupo lang to ng mga estudyante sa classroom. Sila yung mag-undergo ng strategy A, sila rin yung mag-undergo ng strategy B. So, step 1, si teacher, apply niya yung strategy A, turo siya ng lesson using the strategy A, and then after that, bibigyan niya ng test yung mga estudyante about the lesson, kunin niya yung grade. That's a dependent variable. Step 2, same students, sila pa rin. Kung sino man yun na sa A, sila pa rin. Kasi nga, within subjects to, will experience another lesson, but this time, strategy B ang gamit. So, iba ang approach, iba pinapagawa sa kanila, iba yung behavior ng teacher dito. And then after that, they were given a test and then, let's get their scores. Tapos sa step 3, dyan ka na mag-judge a movie, iti-test dependent mo yan. Kukumpara mo yung score nila dito versus dito, titignan mo kung merong bang significant difference. Fast forward, hypothetical result natin, let's say, mas mataas yung scores ng estudyante sa strategy A compared to strategy B. Merong significant effect. Significantly different yung scores dito compared dito, mas mataas yung A over B. So, ang madaling conclusion mo dyan, mas maganda talaga yung strategy A. But you know, this is a within subjects design, posibleng merong nakalusot na fatigue effect. For all we know, baka mas maganda naman talaga yung strategy B. Yun talaga yung totoo. Pero hindi lumabas yung totoo. Ang lumabas yung hindi totoo. It appeared mas effective yung strategy A. So we are not yet safe to say, hindi pa tayo confident na sabihin na mas pangit yung strategy B compared sa strategy A. Kasi nga merong fatigue effect. Hindi na naman tayo sigurado. Nakita natin mas mababa yung score sa mga estudyante under strategy B. Bakit? Is it because pangit yung strategy B? Or is it because baka naman by the time students experience strategy B, pagod na sila? Yun yung fatigue effect. It's not because pangit yung strategy B, walang kinalaman sa strategy yung lower score sa strategy B. Rather, they were already tired. Kasi kung babalikan mo yung sequence ng experiment, imagine mo yung sarili mo, ikaw nandyan. Nakinig ka kay teacher. Dito may cognitive energy na kaagad eh. Nakinig ka sa lesson niya. Tapos, binigyan ka ng test. Edi cognitive energy na naman yan. After nagbigay ng test, nagturo na naman ng bagong lesson, cognitive energy na naman yan. Obvious ba, by the time you are taking this test, ang dami mo ng cognitive energy na pinakawalan, pagod ka na. So, hindi na pareho yung lakas mo dito kumpara dito. And that will affect your performance in the test. Kaya mas mababa yung score mo sa strategy B. O, diba? So, hindi dahil pangit yung strategy B. Kaya mababa yung scores ng mga estudyante dito kasi pagod na sila by the time they experience strategy B. Yan ang fatigue effect. So, how do we deal with fatigue effect? Siyempre, kung may fatigue, anong kalaban ng fatigue? Pahinga. Kung napapagod, magpahinga. Yan. So, rest periods ang solusyon dyan. But when you apply rest periods sa participants mo, make sure you know these two considerations. Number 1, siguraduhin mo na yung rest period nila constant. Kaya hindi rin maganda na kapag pinaparest mo yung participants mo in an experiment, papakawalan mo. Oh, sige, alis na kayo muna sa laboratory. Balik kayo after 30 minutes. Kasi hindi magpapantay-pantay yung rest periods nila. For sure, after 30 minutes, hindi naman lahat yung sabay-sabay darating. Yung iba, late darating. Eh di mas mahaba na yung mga rest periods nun kumpara sa mga maaga. Oh, not to mention even the intensity of their rest. Magiging iba-iba rin. Yung iba baka kumain. Yung iba natulog, umidlip. Yung iba nanood ng YouTube, hindi pare-pareho yung rest period nila. Kaya ideally, dapat pag nagpapa-rest period ka, meron kang holding area na kwarto. Anong gagawin mo sa holding area? Lahat ng participants doon, pare-pareho sila ng rest na gagawin. Lahat sila paidlipin mo ng 10 minutes or lahat sila bigyan mo ng coloring book. Basta dapat pare-pareho sila ng rest period para hindi na naman magdulot yan ng panibagong confounding variable. Number 2, make sure if you apply rest periods, dapat hindi sila nagre-rehearse. Kasi may mga participants, nung na-experience nila yung task doon sa unang condition, na-OC sila. They want to be better in doing those tasks later kasi alam nila may next pa eh. Gagawin ulit nila. So, ang gagawin nila, magpa-practice sila habang nagpapahinga. So, they get better in the second condition. Make sure they don't do that. And usually, how is that done? You make sure na hindi sila nagre-rehearse, bibigyan mo sila ng tinatawag na distractor task. Pagkokolorin mo ng coloring book, pagsosolvin mo ng puzzle, or instruct mo lang sila na umidlip ng 5 minutes, wala silang pwedeng gawin, something like that. So make it constant, make sure they are not rehearsing. Okay, so yan yung considerations kapag mag-a-apply ka ng rest period sa within subjects design. So going back to our hypothetical experiment, yan yung dapat gawin. Nag-strategy A, binigyan mo ng test, pagpahingahin mo muna yung mga estudyante. Pero dapat nasa laboratory lang sila, may holding area. Pare-pareho sila ng rest period, hindi sila nagre-rehearse. And then let's say after 2 hours, doon ka pumasok ng strategy B, bigyan mo ng test, then that's the time you compare. More or less, ma-eliminate mo na yung fatigue effect. Hindi mo na pwedeng sabihin, pagod na sila dito kasi nag-rest na sila. Got that? Balik tayo dun sa brain games experiment. May experiment 2 na ginawa as a follow-up doon sa experiment na pinakita ko kanina. Yan. So, it's like, when you watch that episode, may dalawang experiments na nangyari. Ito yung experiment 1, ito yung experiment 2. Sa experiment 2, syempre, iba naman yung tanong nila dito, no? Ayan, ito yung tanong nila. Does negative thinking affect performance in free throw shooting? Kanina, positive thinking. Ngayon, negative. Kapag ikaw ba nagduda ka sa sarili mo, merong bang negative effect yon in the way you shoot free throws? So, yun lang yung pinagkaiba, no? Yung, this time, negative yung manipulation. So, the experiment went something like this. Yan. Kinuha ulit yung baseline scores nila. This time, kinuha nila yung mga magagaling. Kanina, kinuha yung mga hindi magagaling. Dito yung mga magagaling. Yung mga performance nila is somewhere around 7 out of 10 hanggang 10 out of 10. So, mga malulupit yung mga kinuha nila dito. So, after getting those people good at shooting, in-apply na sila ng manipulation, in-increase yung negative thinking nila. Panoorin nyo na lang sa episode kung paano nila ginawa yan. Again, may reason yan kung bakit sila naka-blindfold. Okay? Pampataas ng negative thinking nila. So, after they experienced the manipulation, they were again asked to shoot 10 free throws. Ito na yung post-treatment task nila. Got that? 10 free throws ulit. So, ikukumpara yung scores nila dito sa baseline. Okay? Siyempre, ang hypothesis, dahil negative thinking yan, dapat yung magagaling, kapag pina-negative thinking mo sila, babagsak yung performance nila, and that's exactly what they found. Like for example, this guy, yung baseline niya is 9 out of 10, pero nung na-experience niya yung negative thinking, naging 5 out of 10 na lang. At hindi lang siya yung na-experience yan, marami pang mga participants other than him who had the same pattern of results. Magaling sila nung baseline, pero nung nag-negative thinking sila, bumagsak ang performance nila. Again, you just watch that video. O ngayon, nasaan dito ang posibleng fatigue effect? Now that you know fatigue effect, now that you know that this is a within subjects design, pwede mo laging pagdudahan yung conclusion. Huwag mo munang sabihin na kaya naging poor ang shooting niyan kasi pinanegative mo yung thinking niya. Not so fast. How sure are you na yung poor shooting niya dahil yun sa negative thinking niya? Baka naman kasi yung poor shooting niya, pagod na kasi siya doon sa second round. Kasi remember, nag-10 free throws na siya dito eh. 'Di ba? 10 free throws na diyan. Baka naman yung energy niya dito, pagpasok niya diyan, hindi na pareho ng energy niya dito, which affected his performance. So it was not the negative thinking that brought this down. Maybe pagod na kasi siya. Naintindihan nyo? So ano ang solusyon diyan? O ganun din, rest period. Dapat going back nung nag-free throw siya dito, hindi ka tapos na experience niya to, hindi ka agad siya nag-free throw. No? Baseline muna, na-experience niya to, then rest period, bago siya nag-post-treatment. Got that? That would fix fatigue effect. Now, let's move on to contamination/carryover effect. Ready? Let's talk about this. Hindi talaga kasya, no? Sa isang line, na OC ako. O, yan yun na. Basta yan yun, ha? Contamination/carryover effect. The effect of previous IV level, kung ano mang na-experience nila nung sa nakaraang IV level, nadadala nila yan sa mga next IV levels. Kasi nga, iisang grupo lang yung ginagamit mo dito eh. So yung mga effect na na-experience nila sa ibang levels, nadadala nila sa mga next levels, which is not good in an experiment. Magiging kosa naman yan ng confounding variable. Let me give you one example. This is our question. Nakakataas ba ng level of happiness yung paggawa ng religious rituals? Very common question yan in the field of psychology of religion. So how do we do this experiment? Ang control variable natin dito are people with average level of happiness. Huwag tayo kukuha ng taong mataas ang level of happiness. Kasi nga, ito yung question natin eh. Gusto natin pataasin yung level of happiness via religious rituals. So, kuha ka lang ng average level ng happiness. Hindi masyadong malungkot, hindi rin masyadong masaya. Titignan natin kung yung pag-a-apply ng rituals, papataasin yung level of happiness nila. So, let's run the experiments for the treatment condition. For the first 3 months, mag-a-apply sila ng religious rituals na tinuro mo sa kanila. So, tuturuan mo muna sila ng set of religious rituals, and then, pag na-master nila yung rituals, for the next 3 months of their lives, they're going to apply those rituals. At the end of 3 months, i-measure mo yung level of happiness nila. And then, pasok sila sa second condition. Ano yung second condition? For the next 3 months, you ask them to stop doing the rituals. Huwag mo nang gawin yung mga rituals dito. For the next 3 months. Kung ano man yung ginawa mo dito, stop doing it. Tignan natin kung anong epekto niyan sa dependent variable mo. You have the picture, how the experiment went. So, fast forward, hypothetical result. Aba, ang sabi sa iyo ng t-test, walang significant difference between level 1 and level 2. Pareho lang daw mataas ang level of happiness. So, ang easy conclusion mo dito, kung walang significant difference, is walang epekto yung religious rituals. Whether may gawin kang ritual or wala, walang effect yan sa happiness mo as mentioned in my stat analysis. Buti na lang alam mo, within subjects design to, buti na lang alam mo yung tinatawag nating carry-over effect. For all we know, baka totoo na nakakasaya talaga yung religious rituals. Hindi lang lumabas sa data. Bakit hindi lumabas? Kasi nga merong carry-over effect. Let me further explain. This is what should have happened. Sa Tagalog, ito yung dapat na nangyari para lumabas sana yung effect ng rituals sa happiness. Okay? Balikan natin. Ito yung dapat na nangyari. Average level of happiness. Tapos tinuruan mo sila ng religious rituals, right? So, they practice the rituals 3 months. At the end of 3 months, boom, tumaas yung level of happiness. Got that? Oh. Tapos, papasok ngayon sila sa control condition. Wherein, gusto mong makita ano mangyayari sa happiness nila pag hindi na sila nag-practice ng rituals. Ang dapat na nangyari ganito, dapat bago nila sinimulan yung level 2, bumalik na sila sa kanilang baseline score of happiness. Diba sabi ko dito, average sila. Dapat bago mo sila pinapasok sa second condition, average level ulit yung happiness nila. Kung yun sana yung nangyari, tignan nyo, edi average sila dito. O bumalik na sila from mataas, bumalik na ulit sa average, hindi na sila nag-practice ng rituals. Ganun ulit yung happiness sila, average. Ito ngayon yung makikita ng t-test. Pag nakita yun ng t-test, sasabihin sa'yo ay may significant difference. Indeed, practicing religious rituals makes someone happier. Yun dapat ang nangyari. Yun nga hindi yun yung nangyari. Ito yung nangyari. Hindi mo kasi alam yung carry-over effect. Ito ang nangyari. Average level of happiness yung participants, pinag-practice mo ng religious rituals, 3 months, at the end of 3 months, mataas ang happiness. So may effect. Right? Ang mali mo, hindi pa nga humuhupa yung effect dito, pinasimulan mo na kaagad, pinapasok mo na kaagad sa second condition. Ano nangyari? Yung effect dito na nakuha nila from here, dala-dala pa nila dito sa second condition. Kaya ang nangyari, mataas pa yung level of happiness nila dito. Tapos, pinahinto mo sa kakagawa ng religious rituals. Hindi pa nawala yung effect. Kaya at the end of 3 months, masaya pa rin mataas pa rin yung level of happiness nila dito. Kaya ito yung nakita ng t-test. Nakita niya parehong mataas yung level of happiness dito, then that means walang significant difference. Which is mali yung ganung conclusion. Kasi nga yung nakita mo dito, hindi naman ito yung effect nito Ito, effect yan nito, nung level 1. Got that? Ang mali dito, hindi mo inantay na mawala yung effect dito bago mo sila pinapasok sa second condition. Yan yung tinatawag na carry-over effect, also known as contamination effect. Hindi maganda yan sa experiments. In fact, kahit sa tunay na buhay, hindi maganda yan, especially in human relationships. Huwag ka muna magjowa kung contaminated ka pa ng ex mo, kung hindi ka pa ready. Kung hurt ka pa ng ex mo, huwag ka munang humanap ng bagong jowa pang rebound. Sabi nga nung isang author, if you never heal from what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who did not cut you. I agree. Contaminated ka pa ng unang jowa mo Galit ka pa doon sa ex mo tapos papasok ka na sa bagong relationship, it will compromise the quality of that new relationship. Nagigets nyo? So, totoo yan sa human relationships, hindi maganda ang contamination effect, hindi rin maganda yan sa experiment. So, ano ang solusyon? Para hindi masira yung experiment mo dahil sa carry-over effect, ang solution dyan, syempre, number 1, i-apply mo muna yung control condition para walang maki-carry over. Kasi sa control condition, wala ka namang minanipulate dyan Tama? So, wala kang expect na madadala nila sa next conditions. Kaya going back to that example, dito ko ba sinabi yun? Yeah, going back to this example, yung sa religious rituals, yun yung maling ginawa dito. Wait lang yan yung maling ginawa. Dapat, eto muna, control condition muna bago yung treatment. Baliktad Inuna dito yung treatment bago control. So that's the first solution. Alright? Ngayon, dun sa brain games experiment, tama. Ginawa yan. Inuna muna yung control condition bago yung treatment condition. So let's review. Ganyan yung nangyari, diba? Nag-control condition muna sila, in-apply yung manipulation, and then treatment condition. Paano mo mamaliin yan? Baliktarin mo. Turuan mo muna ng positive thinking, then i-free throw mo. Tapos, huwag mong turuan ng positive thinking or stop the positive thinking, then ipag-free throw mo. Yun yung mali. Kasi inuna mo kaagad to Baka yung effect nito madala niya sa second condition. Okay? So, buti na lang ito tama. Siguro merong consultant to na nag-experimental psychology. Pero, ang shortage lang, ang disadvantage lang, ng number 1, hindi siya applicable all the time. Kasi may mga experiments na within subject design, pero wala siyang control condition. Either level 1 or level 2, merong manipulation na mangyayari. So, walang control. So, either way, unahin mo man yung level 1 or level 2, pwedeng may effect pa, pwedeng merong pang contamination by the time the subjects enter the second condition. Either way. Halimbawa, ito yung experiment mo. Gusto mong malaman yung epekto sa well-being ng dalawang klase ng rituals. Buddhist rituals, Christian rituals. Wala ka namang control dyan Walang control condition. Kahit unahin mo to, laging may posibilidad na baka yung effect ng isa dito ma-carry over doon sa pangalawang condition. So, ang suggestion ko dito, kung ganito yung design ng experiment mo, mag-between subjects design ka na lang. That's wiser. Alright? Number 2, another possible solution here is, antayin mong mawala, mag-subside, humupa, yung epekto ng previous condition bago mo sila papasukin sa next condition. Going back to my hypothetical example, yun yung dapat na nangyari dito. 'Di ba? Average level of happiness. Pina-apply mo ng religious rituals, nagkaroon ng effect sa kanila. Ang mali, pinapasok mo kaagad sila dito. Meron pang ang effect itong level 1. Right? So ano ang dapat na nangyari dyan? Inantay mo munang mag-average ulit yung happiness nila before they started level 2. Ang tanong, how would you know? How would you know na yung effect dito, wala na. At pwede na silang mag-start sa second condition, kaya nga mahalaga, inalam mo yung baseline scores dito. Kasi yan yung gagamitin mong basehan, ikukumpara mo ngayon yung scores nila dito sa baseline, sa scores nila bago sila mag-start ng second condition. Dapat equal yan. So bago sila mag-start dito, tignan mo muna yung score of on happiness nila, kung pareho ba to dito sa baseline scores nila bago nila na-experience yung level 1. Kapag nakita mong parehong-pareho na yung dalawang yan, yun, pwede na sila mag-start ng second condition. Kung ayaw mo ng sakit ng ulo, ayaw mong gawin yan, anong solusyon? Mag-between subjects design ka na lang. Pero again, going back to strategy 2, merong disadvantage yan eh. Ang disadvantage ng strategy 2 is, eto, meron kasi mga manipulation na yung effect niya long-term, matagal mawala yung effect. Kasi syempre, going back, no, aantayin mo yan eh. Yung movement nila from here to here, aantay mo mag-subside, it takes time. Paano kung may deadline ka? Paano kung yung publication mo, dapat mag-submit ka na ng draft mo next week? You cannot afford to wait. Diba? Yun lang yung disadvantage niyan. It takes time. Yung iba pa nga, yung effect nito sa dependent variable, it's for a lifetime. So again, in those cases, kung alam mong ganun yung effect ng manipulation mo, long-term effect, permanent effect, mag-between subject design ka na lang. Kaya nga, bago ka mag-within subject design, i-analyze mo muna yung nature ng manipulation mo. Yung manipulation ko ba, ang effect nito is long-term or short-term? Pag nakita mong long-term, irreversible, wiser na mag-between subject design ka na lang. Got that? So, yun yung tatlong common problems sa within subject design. Tapos, sinabi ko rin kung paano solusyonan. Pero meron pa akong hindi pala nalagay dyan, na common din sa within subject design. Ito yung tinatawag nating order effects. Hindi ko na lang nalagay dyan. Order effects. Gumawa ako ng lecture dyan kung paano ba solusyonan yung tinatawag nating order effects na again, madalas nangyayari sa within subject design. Panoorin nyo na lang yung lecture ko dyan, ha? Sineparate ko yan kasi medyo komplikado to i-explain. Tsaka masyado tayong mahahaba kung dito ko pa to in-explain. Okay, so ito yung follow-up video. After this, you watch this video, order effects, para talagang klaro yung understanding nyo how to deal with problems using within subject design experiments. Kaya ang ibig sabihin yan, humaba na naman yung listahan ng mga bagay na dapat yung problemahin in designing psychological experiments. Kaya sabi ko, hindi masaya mag-experiment, mahirap to. So ito yung mga dapat nyong iiwasan para hindi maapektuhan yung internal validity ng experiment. Ito naman yung mga dapat nyong gawin para maiwasan ang mga yan. Naku, dumami na naman yung iisipin ninyo. Maliwanag? Sige, so yun lang. Salamat sa pakikinig. Kung meron kayong mga questions or comments, ilagay nyo lang dyan sa baba, comment section. Until the next lecture, Sir Howard here. God bless everyone. Bye.